That was a beautiful display that they had for Tom Savage down at the Green.
Yeah, it was.
Absolutely gorgeous. I think you guys were very, very nice to allow that to be used. I think the family was really emotionally involved. I mean, that just sort of, gave them a little bit of light in a period of darkness, I think. Made quite a difference. I saw Megan today. She was into the office and she was very, very happy with that display and how much it meant to the whole family. So that was great. The police chief.
4 o'clock.
Still missing Ms. Wendy, huh?
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything from her indicating that she would not be around.
No.
So she's probably just wrapping something up. Does she usually zoom in from the school or is she gone by then?
She's usually coming in from the school. That's what I'm seeing in the background.
So she may have something she's wrapping up before she comes on then. How do you want to do this, John? Tony's got a report he wants to make in exec session too. So.
Yeah, I think that what we're going to do is we're probably going to do Tony's report first.
Okay.
And then Tony can excuse himself and then we can meet.
Okay.
There's Wendy.
Hi.
Hi, Wendy. All right. That being said, I'd like to get the meeting underway and I will take a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
And I vote aye. Great, thank you.
Do we need to go into executive session with Tony and then come out of
I
executive session?
don't think so, Matt. I think we can call that an executive session. He's joined.
Okay.
Yep.
They might slap your wrist, but I don't think anyone gives a darn. Close enough. As long as you got a vote in and a vote out, I think you're fine.
Okay. Okay, Kyle, you got to set up there we go.
Going in the breakout room.
Kyle, are you still on?
Yes, John, I'm here.
You have any idea how long they anticipate that might take?
I have no idea what they're talking about, so there's no way to know.
Me either.
Tony's involved, so that should tell you something.
Well,
All right. So here we are. Everyone back? Okay. So item 3. Minutes, approval of minutes from October 5, 2020.
This is Wendy. I would move approval of the minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
And John McCauley votes aye. Thank you.
John, excuse me. I think,
Yes.
don't you guys have to move to come out of executive session?
We did
Oh, we
that
did
in
that in-
executive session, Claire.
Okay,
I've got the
Well,
motions,
okay,
and I've got who
Okay.
did it, moved and seconded, yeah.
okay.
Okay, appointments, recognitions, and resignations. Increase the term for Alan Zbore as dockhand at the rate of $16 an hour until a new deputy harbor master can be hired.
This is Matt, and I would move approval with the terms presented.
This is Wendy. I'll second that.
Okay, very good. How long does this look like it's going to be a situation?
We've
Do you
got
know?
a number of resumes, so he, Jim, John can start. Come on, go ahead, John. Sorry, I don't want to speak for you.
That's okay. It's been 2 weeks. It just closed to in-house posting today. Anticipating doing interviews next week.
Okay, good.
John,
Yes,
what we've learned in the past in Public Works is we run the in-house and a general ad at the same time. It's just for future reference. It helps speed the process up.
okay. Okay, very good. Any further discussion? Okay, Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you. Consider a recommendation that Gabe Lunt be assigned to the vacant Waste Management Division position as an MEO1 refuse employee at his current rate of pay of $21.79 per hour.
This is Matt, I would move that we approve the recommendation of Gabe Lunt as presented. With thanks to Gabe for being flexible about this.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion?
He likes the perks.
Okay, Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. Thank you letters from Eastern Area Agency on Aging, Hospice Volunteers of Hancock County, Island Connections, and Mount Desert Island Historical Society, and Hancock County Commissioners meeting minutes of September 15 and 30, 2020.
This is Wendy. I would approve the consent agenda as presented.
This is Matt, I'll second that.
Okay. Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
And John votes aye. Thank you. Any selectmen's reports?
I had one. This is Jeff Wood. I was contacted by a Hall Quarry resident shortly after that fatal crash in Town Hill with concerns and questions about whether or not we could somehow do a better job or have somebody do a better job of marking the left turn into Hall Quarry going south on 102. That, you know, people fly through the section between Soamesville and Hall Quarry, and they also fly up the other way coming north. And that left turn is a concern, and whether or not, I mean, if the person that spoke to me was talked first about putting in a left turn lane, and I don't have anything to do with this, and I imagine we may not at all, but even just some signage or a flash left turn come be watch out, because the accident in Town Hill just worried a lot of people that, you know, have to stop and have people flying up their rears at high rates of speed. So that's just a report that I got from somebody in Hall Quarry that contacted me.
Yeah. So Tony, go ahead.
Jeff, you taught the northerly entrance.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll contact DOT tomorrow and see
Thank
what
you.
they can do, if anything. If they can't, If they allow us to, I'll bring that back to you.
That'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Great. Okay, any other selectmen's reports? Okay, unfinished business. Item A, presentation and discussion of the conceptual plans for the proposed Northeast Harbor Fire EMS station.
Don, if I can. So just everybody knows I have Alina Watt is joining us from Hedifine Engineering Services, and Carla Haskell, the architect, that helped us with this design, is online too, and they're going to be available to answer any technical questions that I can't answer. Just to recap, I know you have a new board member, but back in February, I came to you with a couple of options to expand the existing municipal building in hopes of building on to provide quarters and living area for 24/7 staffing for not only firefighters, but EMTs working for the Northeast Harbor Ambulance Service. And after drawing up a couple options, it was pretty clear that the existing plans, although maybe suitable for the first couple, 3 years, really did not leave us any room for growth, and in fact left out a lot of key areas that we were looking for, a couple of EMS offices and some other key items that we just could not fit into the existing space. So back then I threw out the option of building new, looking at the park area that's adjacent to the municipal building. And at that time, the board member said, well, come back to us with some drawings and some site plans and everything. So I've been working with Alina and Carla, and Tony's been helping me quite a bit since July, working up these plans that's presented to you. You should have with you or in front of you, hopefully, the floor plans up with, as well as some a site plan and some elevation plans.
Yep.
So we really got together several times, hammered this out. I think we've come up with a really well-designed building. It's certainly not in excess in any means. We tried to keep everything basic and as simple as we could, but yet provide what we need now and hopefully what we need in the long term. We're trying to build this building to last the town for 40 to 50 years, as well as leaving options for growth with both fire and EMS. And as I said in my memo, if the time should ever come that the 4 towns or some of the towns on the island want to look to collaborate a little bit more and maybe do some regionalization, this building certainly would fit into that scheme. As I told you before, no matter what the island does as far as regionalization, I feel strongly you're going to need a fire station in the Northeast Harbor to cover this side of the town. Just keep in mind the building that we've built not only is going to provide for the fire service, but also for the volunteer ambulance company too, as well. We've provided sleeping rooms for them, as well as sharing the living quarter areas, some additional offices that they don't have now, and other accommodations down there. So you have a estimated price in your packet, and it came in at just over 7.5 million. These are numbers that both Alina and Carla, I guess, put together for us. And if you have any more questions on that, they can help you out answering that. As I said in my memo, we really did try to find other suitable locations in and around Northeast Harbor, but there really was nothing left of there unless the board or the town was willing to pay, another $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 for to buy a piece of land to relocate this. I think we've done a good job with the site that we've picked. We've tried to leave as much green area in and around there as we can, being sensitive to those people that didn't want to lose as much green area as possible. The location I think is ideal, being next to the town municipal building, but also adjacent to the public safety dispatch, which we work closely together, with on a day-to-day basis. So, so here it is. I hope hope I can count on your support for this. The time is now. I mean, I really feel strongly that we need to start moving forward with this because, as you can see by the timetable, at best, if we do move ahead, completion would be 3+ years out. And I anticipated in several of my memos and strategic plan that in that 3 to 5 year window, your staffing is really going to be, I think, in a critical situation, both at least in fire, and I think EMS is going to be in the same position.
Well. Build it and they will come. What's everyone think of that?
This is Matt. Maybe I'm the only one. When I saw the number, and I want to make it perfectly clear, I'm not being critical of Tony or Hedifine or anyone because construction costs are what they are. I was like, wow, that's a substantial number. And I immediately started thinking, that's going to be an interesting town meeting. Well, and it's funny because I thought to myself, I always, and I think everyone here, when you have any of the emergency services, police, fire, I was shocked, honestly, that the ambulance service really hadn't asked for town support up until a couple of years ago. It was all private. I always feel like if they ask for something, I'd like the town to be able to give it to them because they're doing something that most of the rest of us aren't willing or able to step up and do, and it's invaluable. But then you see that $7.5 million figure and you think, okay, I can see people being a little less enthusiastic about this. And my concern is, because we also know we've got some moving parts here too, with the staffing side of it and then the building side of it. And I just wonder if this doesn't go smoothly, what's that going to do to the staffing part of it that we know we need as well? Is there almost like a contingency plan or something that we've been thinking about in case this does get held up, denied, delayed, whatever? Have we thought about that? Or because that's sort of just what hit my mind first.
I don't have a contingency plan. We started with expanding the existing building. That kind of was not an option. So then we moved on to building new to provide quarters, as I said, for now and for the next 30 to 50 years. So we don't have a contingency plan. I guess we can throw something together if we're really forced into it. It won't be a pleasant option. If we move over in Seal Harbor, I think I know Basil was on here earlier, but they actually lived over there for several months during the summer during the COVID-19, and he could tell you the logistics part of it anyway, how it really didn't work out. We have nothing in this building unless the meeting room is not going to be used for the next 2 or 3 years or something like that. So there's nothing really in Northeast Harbor that I can see that we could utilize for quarters. And I think the other thing you need to remember too, and I don't know if this makes a difference, but the town of Mount Desert, the Seal Harbor Fire Station was donated to them about 30 years ago. The Sonesville Fire Station was donated probably about 35 years ago. And as far as I can tell, this building here was donated to the town back in 1981, I think, when it was built. So, the town has really not invested in a public safety building in, 40, 50 years, or maybe even more.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Mike. We need something.
I would suggest, if I could, that if and when this comes to be presented to the town, that all of those points you just made and anything else that you can cobble together for, to explain to people, those points are important for people to know. I don't know any of that, but knowing that we haven't had to build a building, those are things that the taxpayers can appreciate, rather than, at least a little bit to go, oh my God, over the sticker shock.
Right.
Yeah.
I plan to present that as, in the town meeting and answer any questions as they come up. But I agree, Jeff. I think that's important to know. And, it's also important to know, too, that the town has really relied on volunteer EMS and fire service for many, many years. And I think the end is coming. It's just like the law enforcement was 40, 50 years ago, when constables and those that used to walk up and down the street, have disappeared, and the law enforcement has become more professional and all full time.
Yeah. Well, we have a valuation over $2 billion in this town. And so I think that that's the way I'm looking at this thing, is that, we have a duty to provide fire safety to our taxpayers. And, we've depended for many years on volunteers and the goodwill of our neighboring towns.
Yep.
John, am I able to talk? I'm out in the public.
Oh.
Or
Where are you? Is that Stephanie?
yeah, I don't know if we're allowed to talk.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, go ahead, chime in.
In light of the accident that happened last Monday, I felt really differently before about fire station, EM. Do we really need to spend the money on these buildings, etc.? And there has been a lot of talk since Monday in the community. I don't know if this is true or not, that Bar Harbor was able to get to Soamesville before even the town of Mount Desert could, because we just didn't have the EMS staff at Mount Desert at the time to get there. I don't know if that's true or not, but whether it is or isn't, I mean, we're one of the wealthiest communities in Maine, and I just think a lot of this is heartbreaking. I know people have issues about where it's going to go, what it's going to cost, but I mean, how much, there aren't volunteers. There just aren't, like we've been saying. And I think it's time, and it is out in the community. I obviously didn't know how much it would cost or anything like that, but there is a lot of talk. And I think people are starting to realize we have got to do something, because we don't have the volunteers. We don't have places for the EMS or the firemen, firewomen to sleep half the time. So if something breaks out, say over in Hall Quarry or over where I live, yes, I believe Southwest can come, but I'm assuming Southwest has a priority to their own town if something's going on.
Yeah.
So how long do we wait for drivers and EMTs? And I do think Mike Bender's correct. I think now it's definitely becoming the time. And if this is a 3-year project, it's something to really start thinking about. And I think people are coming around to the idea a little bit more than say they were a year ago. That's just, I've kind of been scoping things out a little bit, but I think it's time. That's just my thought and kind of what's out there. And I know it's expensive, but I do feel like something's got to be done. So I'll leave.
John,
Yes.
this is Tony. I think we need a building, a new building. And I've worked with Mike and the ladies, and Matt, you won't insult me talking costs on this one. I bow out when it comes to building costs. But yes, it's expensive, but you get what you pay for. And this is a quote unquote technical building. And if you look at it closely, which we've all done, I won't say it's got the bare necessities, but it's got what we need and a little bit right now, and a little bit more. As I understand it, this building would work as, would be heavily involved as part of an island-wide consolidated fire department. Am I correct, Mike?
Yes, you're correct. We try to provide the room for additional vehicles if we need them, plus the lodging. That's why you have the extra bunk rooms upstairs. If you look at the second floor plan, we certainly don't need all those now, but we do have the space available that if both fire and EMS need to add additional staffing, that can be done.
Yeah.
And when I started on the fire department years ago, I think I was 45 or 46, and I was one of the younger ones. And then, as Mike puts it, I aged out along with a lot of other people along the way. And John, I agree. You said build it and they will come. We're going to need to offer.
We need to offer a
Up-to-date.
professional working environment for professional firefighters.
Thank you. Yes.
Um,
And yeah. And yes. Thank you.
Can I chime in too real quick? Basil from the ambulance.
Yeah.
Hey, so I mean, just to kind of echo kind of what Mike's been saying too, is, you know, we are very much in the same situation as the fire department, and we rely heavily on our volunteer staff who we pay, but they still respond from home like volunteer staff do. And where we're struggling with the volunteer side of things, we have actually pushed forward with starting to have 2 people on staff 24/7 when we can. And we're just starting it this month and kind of getting that rolling. But we are also very limited because we don't have enough room to put 2 people in that station. So we have to, I mean, what we have to do is we have to have somebody on duty at their house that lives nearby. So kind of going back to Stephanie's observation that the ambulance, there's somebody at the station, but they have to wait for somebody to respond to the station before they can leave, which obviously does slow us up. But it's also part of the nature of having a volunteer type response, which we've relied on for a long time and it's worked well. But unfortunately, it's just kind of coming to the end of that road. But just, I mean, just know that as of now, we really are, we've outgrown our space and we're making it work, but you know, this is something that we definitely need to address relatively soon, I think. And I think Mike obviously is in a very similar situation. And kind of just to add to what Stephanie was asking about just a minute ago, all the ambulance services on the island work really closely together with mutual aid agreements. And there are certain calls that we have that certain towns, and Bar Harbor happens to have the piece of equipment that we need for that particular call, but we have automatic responses. So sometimes where they have people in-house and can leave as soon as the call goes out, they can actually beat our volunteer people just because they get on the road faster than we do, which is it's kind of how we do it. So,
yeah,
you know, that's kind of where we're at. I don't know if anybody has any questions for the ambulance service, but we're definitely on board with, you know, doing something because we definitely need it as a town.
I'd like to speak, John. It's a very handsome building. I congratulate you on designing something very attractive, and it looks like it has everything you could need. And I understand the reasoning behind the placement that Mike outlined in your report, Mike. That was a very good letter. I'm still not convinced, however, that we need another gigantic building in the marina. I think it's a shame to put a big building, a big utilitarian building, no matter how beautiful, right there. So I would be in favor of another location if that's possible. You seem to think it isn't, but that's my reservation. But the biggest problem for me is the cost. We're in such precarious times right now. And I think it's up to this board to hold the town expenses in check. We've got $7.5 million is a lot of money. And I would hate to have this town undertake another great big construction project when we still haven't finished the last one. I think it's a lot to ask of our taxpayers. if the real problem is finding a place for our volunteers and paid employees to sleep, have we considered buying a house in town where they would be closer? There's a house for sale. I spoke with someone in town today who suggested that there are 2 places in town that are for sale in the vicinity of the town office that might be possible as a place for people to sleep, with a kitchen. These are all ideas. I think, I understand the impetus for it. I certainly want us to have a safe and strong fire department and emergency response team and adequate facilities for them. I'm just concerned about this kind of expense at this time and also the placement of the building.
Good points.
Can I?
Yep, go ahead.
On. So, having a separate house from the fire station, it sounds like a good idea, but it's just not, it can be done, but where else in the state and across the country do you see your fire service have your the lodging a block or 2 or a half a mile away from the fire station? It's just not responding wise. You just logistically wouldn't do that. You want your staff in the station, next to the truck, next to the equipment. I understand it's a big cost, and we're going into this. We knew there was going to be quite a bit of cost to this. I think expanding the municipal building, which really didn't work, we were looking at, if I remember correctly, I think around 2 million, 3 million for that, just to expand that building there. But if we don't want to build a fire station, if we don't want to invest in the public safety of this community, we can look at other options. We can put maybe a couple of temporary housing out in the Cranberry housing lot, a couple trailers out there. I'd rather have that than have them have firefighters live 2 or 3 blocks away from the fire station. At least they would be closer to the station there. The way I look at it, the town has invested a lot of money over the years in building a new marina, one of the best marinas on the coast of Maine. They're rebuilding Main Street now to make it more attractive for businesses. They're trying to attract new businesses into town to build and fill those empty lots that, were burned out 12 years ago, and they're still sitting empty, a lot of them. So I would think you'd want to do what you can to try to assure those trying to move into the communities and build businesses that you're going to do all you can for the public safety of there and protect the assets that you have already built in the marina, new town garage, and all that. So I understand it's a lot of money, but are we really willing to draw the line at public safety? Is this where you want to stop the spending?
John?
Yes, go ahead, Tony.
I was just wondering, I agree with Mike in the public safety. Maybe we have a 2-week think about it process, and Mike with assistance can look at some of the ideas that have been tossed around. In the meantime, we can look at what debt will be paid off, at what milestones moving forward, what money would be freed up, things of that nature.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, it would be. I'd like to have a bigger picture of this whole plan.
And I also speak for a moment about one of the things, and Mike makes some good points about, where do we stop spending when we built a big marina and we're spending all this money. But my concern, again, as somebody who lives in Soamesville and who has connections to Hall Quarry and Pretty Marsh, there are people who, regardless of where it ends, are still looking at all the money being spent right in Northeast Harbor. And I don't disagree that that's the obvious location if we're going to build for a fire station, but it is a concern at town meeting, and people are, there are people with this feeling that there are other parts of the town that aren't getting that money spent.
Good-headed stepchild.
And the other thing that I guess I've been thinking about a lot was at our last meeting, we talked about the difficulties getting volunteer firemen. And you mentioned that they're guaranteed 2 hours of pay and they get paid $14.80 an hour. We just hired a teenager, or approved the hiring of a teenager to work at the marina for $16 an hour. And I can tell you for myself, if I'm sitting on my couch watching TV or something and I get a call to go to a fire, I don't want to get off my couch for less than $100. I think we could do a lot better at attracting volunteers if we totally reconfigure and consider how to make that better. I'm not suggesting that is the answer to all the concerns that you have, but I can tell you that it's not surprising to me that we don't have people willing to leave to go respond to a fire call for $14.80 an hour.
John,
Yes.
can I?
Go ahead. Yep.
No, Jeff, we can certainly look at our fee structure. And I'm more than willing to increase the budget, although we're talking about trying to keep our budgets down. But I'm more than willing to increase the money in the budget to pay more for the volunteer firefighters. To be honest with you, I don't think it'll help, but I'm willing to throw money at it and see if it will. My finding is that it's not only the money, and I agree, it's the numbers too. It's a numbers game. When we used to have 25 to 30 people on the roster, I used to be able to get those 8 or 12, 15 people that were willing to get out of bed and go to a call. The rest of them would stay in bed. But when you got a roster of 12, and 5 of them are out of town, 2 are at camp and 1 went, the numbers are just not there for responding. But I'm willing to increase the pay. That's not a problem. But I think the key is the community is changing. I mean, and if you guys can't see that, if you guys can't see this community, this town has changed in the last 20, 25 years. The type of people that are buying houses and moving in town are not the type of people that are willing to go to a fire academy for 6 months and put in 300 hours to learn to be a qualified firefighter, or to put in probably close to the same amount of hours to be a certified EMT. And I don't think the money is going to help that. It's trying to get that type of people, those families in the town that are willing to roll up their sleeves and do this type of volunteering, in town. It slowly was just dying over the years. And I think we've come to a point where, if we don't address it, it's going to be a big, big issue in a few years. But no, we can even double the pay. And bump it up to $28 or $20 an hour, and try to entice people to respond to that.
John,
Yes.
I just, Mike, I don't think anybody, or I can't speak for everybody else, but I mean, the last thing that I would say that I would want to do is cut public safety and cut what you guys need from us. And I mean, that's our job to support you. But I mean, I just feel like in this right now, like in this world of who knows what's going to happen in November or beyond, I'm supportive. I think we need something. And but I guess I think $7.5 million for a building, do you really think that that's going to guarantee people are going to volunteer to still be on your, not volunteer because you're going to pay them, but if you can't get them to come now, is that the make or break thing, is having a $7 million building and a place for them to sleep? I mean, I feel like I'd much rather have us put, $800,000 into something for a couple of years and see, is it going to make a difference? Are you going to be able to get qualified EMTs if you have a place for them to sleep? Or, and I know money everything costs money, but I'm not, and I don't think Martha was saying either that we're cutting you or we don't support what you guys do for our community, because you are essential in our community. But it's the timing for me, and something so extravagant and so, and I know it's not the best of everything, but I have to kind of agree with Matt. I was thinking, you know, maybe half of that. And then when I looked at the 7 million, I was like, holy cow, right now, I feel like it's doing a disservice to our taxpayers unless we have more information. And I think, you know, I appreciate that suggestion, Tony, because I think, you know, that might help us be able to understand a little bit better where we are. Because, I mean, half of me is like, yes, I support this 100%. We need this. I mean, and the other half is afraid about my taxes and being able to afford to live here anyway. So more info might help.
Okay. Hey, Mike.
Tony, go ahead.
What I've observed is a lot, maybe all full-time fire stations, firefighters work two 24-hour shifts. They're at the station for a long period of time. They could live anywhere in the state and do that here. We need, as John said, a professional environment to draw these people from wherever. A lot of full-time firefighters that I know work their shift at the fire department. They stay right there, 312s, 224s, 324s, and they have other jobs on the side. There's a graphic designer. I know of 2 carpenters that have jobs on the side. And that's where we're going to get the professionals from, are people that don't want to live in a mobile home in the Cranberry parking lot. They want to be in a full-time fire station environment, doing what they do, and then they'll go home, whether it's Bangor, Ellsworth, Dover, Foxcroft. They do. We buy our logos from a full-time firefighter that also does the sticky logos, decals. That's one of his businesses. When I was at CES, a full-time firefighter did some remodeling in the building, the old office building, a lot of remodeling. So a lot of these fellows do have second jobs. And I got on the fire department. I got on when you weren't a paid volunteer, and I got off when you were. And I don't even think $50 an hour is enough now for me to get up out of bed, get halfway to the fire station and say, oh, stand down. It's it's false alarm or something. I think, and Mike, you can correct me. I bet 95% of the full-time volunteer firefighters right now are not in it for the money. They're in it for the civic duties that tend to be lacking, as Mike has said.
Yeah, definitely. There's no way it's in it for the money. No.
Mike, is that, I mean, that makes sense, Tony. And is that the type of shift, like when you're thinking full-time firefighters, is it like 2 24s and then you're off? Or is that what you envision? And you envision getting people from like Bangor and Augusta or something like that to apply that are already super qualified? So it's not necessarily people that live here and want to learn the trade. Is that how you envision that?
Yeah, it is. When we hire career firefighters, they have to be already trained. So, whether we hire from our on-call staff or from outside the area, most of them have to be already certified and, hit the ground running. But your shifts kind of vary between areas and municipalities. I think the most common shift in the fire and EMS service now is working 24 hours on, then you take 48 off. And then you work 24 on and 48 off. So basically you work in one day, you get 2 days off. And these are the shifts that we had here. I don't know if you remember back in March, April, and May. We were working 24/7, 48 shifts, 24 on, 48 off. And, to be honest with you, I don't know if anybody's chimed in, but both the full-time and the on-call firefighters that actually stepped up and filled some shifts were very happy with it. They thought it was great. That's why most of them wanted to see this new station and really move to a 24/7 coverage, down the road. But there are other shifts. Sometimes you work 48 and you get 96 off. And there's some where you work 2 days, you get 3 days off, then you work 3 days and you get 5 days off. And so there's a lot of variables. But yes, and that's common with your full-time fire departments in the area, Bar Harbor, Ellsworth, Bucksport. A lot of those firefighters will, well, most of them will live outside the community. Some of them have to have, according to union rules, they have to be within a certain response area, but they can live outside the municipality as long as they can be, you know, within the station that varies 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Mike, can I ask, are there rules about whether or not they can work for more than one fire department? Because
no, the only rules, that would be a union rule. There are some unions that prohibit their union members from working for other fire departments. But
I mean, I just started thinking of, like, if I was going to have 48, I don't want one of our local firefighters to get off his 24-hour shift and then go work a 24-hour shift somewhere else and then show back up for work if he had a busy couple. That would concern me, but I just wonder.
I mean, something too, I think everybody needs to, this is Basil from the ambulance. I mean, that unfortunately is kind of a standard practice that a lot of guys do have to work other jobs just because the pay isn't such that, you know, they can afford not to. I mean, I can tell you that I have numerous guys that work for me in Northeast Harbor from Bar Harbor and other departments that have, I mean, everybody has full-time other jobs and they work for the ambulance over here and help us out. So, I mean, something to remember is that, you know, as we go more towards a full-time service on both sides, EMS or fire, I mean, we are competing against other entities, you know, whether it be Ellsworth or Bar Harbor or Bangor. And all of these other places have perks of their own, whether it be better pay, you know, better schedule, better whatever. And where we don't have a large local group of people to draw on, I feel like we're not going to necessarily have people from the community that want to take this job. You know what I mean? So we're going to have to reach out and pull people in. So whether it be the station or whether it be pay or however we do it, like, we're going to have to sell Mount Desert as an attractive location to work. And I think it's important too that we do get good qualified people because, you know, obviously we don't have, you know, this isn't FDNY. We don't have, you know, 1,000 calls a year. And I think it's important that we do have, you know, good qualified people working here. And, you know, if we can get some people from maybe away or whatever by attracting them, however we do it, I think it's important. So I don't know, but it is pretty common to have second job, and I wish it wasn't because I think it's not the best thing in the world. But, you know, if the town could do something to, you know, promote somehow doing something for the workers that makes it so they don't have to have a part-time job, that would be awesome. It's better for the town. And I think if the town could find a way to promote their workers to live close, live on MDI, be a part of the community, I think that's huge too. But as everybody knows, property values are through the roof, and it's one of the things that's killing the volunteer, you know, fire department and EMS. Nobody can live here. I mean, I don't know. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is Matt. I just wanted to, I guess, add that and make it clear, I guess, even though I sort of brought this up, but I wholeheartedly support this and realize this move to career firefighters is absolutely necessary for our community. Having said that, it also means that a facility to, you know, sleeping and living facility, that is also absolutely necessary. You can't really have that first part without having the second part. And I hate making judgments based solely on or, you know, really focusing on dollar amount. Unfortunately, this job that the five of us have, we have to look at that. And again, just thinking about the town meeting, that's going to be where the question is. And so my concern is that if this gets hung up at town meeting in some part of the process, what's that going to do to that first stated goal of moving to a more sort of career firefighter model. And that, you know, I'm sure the building is fairly Spartan for what it is, but I just think about what we've gone through with other projects at town meeting. And if I were sitting up in those bleachers somewhere and looking at plans like this, I might say, well, why do you need a conference room that looks like it seats 40 people? Or I might say, well, yes, this building is sort of looking at the future and the number of vehicles you might need to have in the bays. Do you need those number of bays right now? Well, why are we building them? Those are the questions that we're going to get. And I just think we've got to have the answers for that, or a contingency plan of some kind, because unfortunately, you know, time is not on our side in this whole thing. It's the problems that we've talked about. They're real, and they're only getting worse at this point, unfortunately.
Hey, John,
Yes.
when I've been working down here since '87 in this capacity since '01, and there's been little to no maintenance of the wastewater collection or treatment facilities. And we're now state of the art, meet our license requirements, no question. And I received some of those same questions that Matt raised. Why do we need this extra bay? All these plants were built with, you calculate your design flow and then you add to it for future development. I believe, Matt, it's planning. I know you're just playing devil's advocate, and I agree. People will ask, why do you need that fourth bay today? Well, when we did the highway garage, we added an extra bay for the garbage truck, whether that was for the garbage truck or a loader. We use it every day. All those bays at the highway garage are used. That project, I should remember, was around $2 million. It's a pre-engineered steel building with little to no partition walls in it. So you're looking at $2 million there and an estimate of $7.5 million. And after you throw in engineering, we're probably at $2.2 million at the highway garage. So a third of what this new fire station would be. The new fire station might be Spartan, but it makes the highway garage look really Spartan, or the highway garage makes it look like the Taj Mahal. I mean, it's planning ahead, I think, is my answer to people that would ask those questions.
Yeah, so I guess that at the end of the day here, we all agree that we need something. We agree that it's very expensive, and no one's excited about that. And some of us don't really like where it's going to be built. Okay. So I am certainly in favor of continuing this, because I don't think we can get away from it. You know, I've been saying this for years and years and years, which is one of the reasons I've been pushing for an island-wide public safety effort. We absolutely cannot certainly go backwards from here. And we certainly need a facility of some sort, and we need to make a facility that's not going to be defunct in 20 years. That being said, I'm not crazy about some of the other pieces here. The expense, you know, I agree with Martha. I agree with Wendy about, you know, this is real sticker shock. I don't know what I expected, but 7.8 is 7.5 is expensive. I mean, those are the facts. Okay, are we not going to do it because it's 7.5? Can we do it more cheaply? Can we put it somewhere else? A lot of questions.
Don?
Yes.
I just wanted to say this has been a good conversation. I appreciate everybody's input. And there are a lot of questions. I mean, and I guess in order for me to get some direction, I mean, is the board willing to, do they really want to buy a piece of land in town to find another place for this? Is that an option that everybody's willing to look at? You know, you're looking at additional cost, but I don't know of any other piece of land in town that could be located. So just to give me ideas that, yeah, I'd rather have it someplace else, but I'm willing to kick in another $900,000 to buy a piece of land.
Yeah, so I guess that begs the question of what's our inventory look like, and that's that's Derlin's bailiwick and maybe Tony's a little bit, or Kyle's. I don't know what we have or how much land we'd need to acquire.
You've got nothing that's buildable for a public safety building. The only land you have of any consequence is up in 198, and that's got easements on it. The only part of it that's really buildable, part of it is for recreation and conservation only, 2/3 of it. And the other third is for workforce housing only. So there's no way you could put anything up in that area. And that's the only piece of town land in Northeast Harbor, so.
John?
Yes.
It just, the other question was too, is I heard a lot of contingency plans or, let's try something else somewhere else first to see if it works. So again, I asked the board a question is, are they willing to spend a couple million to add on to the existing building for 3 to 5 years and then abandon that and build by then it'll probably be a $9 million station. Is that, because the reason we're trying to do this now is I'm like Tony said, I'm somebody that likes to plan for the future, and whatever we spend, it's good money spent now to last for the next 40 to 50 years.
Yeah.
But
no, I agree with that. I don't want to throw away money.
John?
Yes.
Like Mike said, or you said, there's been a lot of ideas thrown around, including the cost. What if we take either 2 weeks or 4 weeks to come back and try to address some of these ideas and thoughts?
Yeah, that'd be great. I certainly would agree that we need to come back. We're going to be talking about this for, a long time.
And now that we have a cost estimate for a brand new building, maybe we can, with that figure in mind and knowing we want to save money, look at an addition to the building that's there now a little differently. Go back to the first two options and see what may or may not be able to be tweaked to meet the needs and still save money.
Yeah, can I just add that I agree with the idea about going back to the drawing board a little bit because, well, two things. First, I think all that Chief Bender is asking us here to do today is give him permission to ask Hedifine to provide us with an estimate of what engineering plans might cost. And then, again, that would end up before the town meeting in May. So I think it is beneficial that we're having these conversations now. And I've already forgotten the other part I was going to say, but I'm sure it was brilliant.
Mike,
I'll pass on that for now.
Mike, I just want to say this. I hope you understand that we all are in support of your department and that the safety of our town is of utmost importance to us. And I like that you're thinking big picture and looking forward. My concern about location and money, I mean, those are concerns, and I'd like to hear some alternatives if there are any. But I think you've done a wonderful job with working on this, and I like your ideas, and I think we can come up with something. But I like Tony's thought too, that this is a lot for us to absorb, and we need to think carefully about how we proceed. So some time to talk about various options and then move forward as together, I think would be very helpful.
No, I do appreciate your support. I know you guys support the fire and EMS and law enforcement, all the public safety. So we do appreciate that. And, I agree. I think it was a good conversation, like I said, and hopefully, we can chew on this for a couple weeks and maybe come back in 2 weeks or 4 weeks and revisit it, maybe come up with some other ideas and hopefully come, with a consensus. The timeline is a little important, so I think we need to keep that in focus and keep that in sight. If we push this out too many years, we may come to a point where we're not going to have people responding to a call or, whatever. But we'll do what we can, and hopefully all of us can come to a consensus and, move forward with this.
I'm sure we can.
Okay. So we'll bring this back in a couple weeks.
In the meantime, I'm not sure I'm ready, to say to you, Mike, go research how, I just would like a little time to really look at these plans, which are amazing, and have answered all the questions and time to really process and think. So I'm not ready to say to you, no, we're not going to do this, so you need to go do X, Y, and Z. I think I would just like a little time to just to chew on what's here and discuss it, and maybe even, as the public might have, anybody that might care has looked at this and might have ideas and input. So I'm not ready to send you off to make any big changes yet.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, I mean, we'll dust off the plans from the expansion of this building and kind of look at it a little bit harder too. I still don't think it's a good idea, but we'll look at that again and maybe see if that can work, or as Tony said, see if we can do something with that.
Okay. All right. That being said, we come upon item B. Consideration of fire chief's request for authorization to solicit an estimate from Head of Fine Engineering and Design for professional technical services for survey design and bidding services related to the proposed new fire EMS station presented in agenda item A.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Would you want to table that maybe until
Yes.
we bring back the conceptual plans?
I think so.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Do we need a motion and a vote for that, right, Derlin, to table that? Okay. I will accept a motion to table.
This is Matt, and I'll move that we table item B under unfinished business.
Jeff Wood, second.
Okay, Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
And I vote aye. Great, thank you.
Yep, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
you.
Consideration of award of construction-related services for the construction of the Dodge Point Road Bait House renovations as follows, and as described in Section J, including account numbers of the attached October 16, 2020 memo to Town Manager Derlin Lunt from Public Works Director Tony Smith titled Recommendation for Award of Construction-Related Contracts and Related Table A to 1, H.E. Callahan Construction for the amount of $235,532 for construction of the renovations. 2, to Head of Fine Engineering for the amount of $11,000 for construction contract administration and inspection services related to the renovations. And 3, a contingency amount of $10,972 for a total approved project cost, including contingency funds of $254,504. It's a mouthful. Okay.
As I
Tony,
said,
is this amount in this item, is this on track from what was approved at town meeting over the last 2 years?
the total at town meeting was 160,000 last year and 70,000 this year, for a total of $230,000. The spreadsheet I provided you, those funds would be supplemented by the Bait House Reserve Fund, with approximately, one moment, 8,400, and excuse me, let me just jump back a little bit. Town meeting, there's a balance of those two town meetings of 225,747. The Bait House Reserve Fund account has $8,438 in it. And then the buildings and grounds reserve funds. And this project is one of the reasons why this account was set up, with a balance of $20,319 in it.
Okay.
The total amount available, and I've worked with Kathy on this, of $254,504.
Okay.
And I recommend approval as I pointed out in the recommendations section of my memo. This is work that we've whittled it down. We bid it once, solicited bids from 7 contractors, received 1. It was very high. Second time around, we worked with the engineers to get it right back down to brass tacks, just to meet code. Nothing over and above that, which the original project did have some in. Solicited bids from the 7 original companies, plus 1 that read about the project, and the Mount Desert Islander called, asked if they could be involved this time around. We said yes. They were the only ones to submit a bid the second time.
Okay.
Very eager to do the work. They've done this work before.
Right. Anybody else have anything to add? No? Somebody want to make a motion?
I'm trying to pick out the
I'm
key
not allowed to
words.
make, just in case you're wondering, I'm not allowed to make motions, okay?
Wendy, I'll make a motion to let Tony do what he outlined in this very detailed memo.
Thank you. I know, John. I know. Verbose is the word. Yes, John.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. I'm telling Miss Clark on you. All right. Wendy, do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
I thought
All
I
right.
did.
Oh,
Martha did.
I
oh,
did.
did you? Sorry.
Oh, okay. So Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Request to make change in business hours permanent.
I wrote a memo, as you may remember, we changed those in June when we reopened to the public after being closed for 3 months. And it was an idea of looking through our processes and making sure we were ready to give customers good customer service to the public. I said at that time, I'd like to evaluate that over a few months to see if I would like to recommend that that become a permanent thing. And I said October would be the time that I would make a recommendation. So I am coming back, and I do recommend, for the reasons that I outlined in my memo, that we make those office hours of 9 to 4:30 for the public to be permanent. And we continue to use that half hour in the morning for our prep work, our report work, and any training work that we may want to do. I think it's enhanced the efficiency of the office staff. I think it's a good idea. I've received no complaints from the public. As I said before, it was not a very heavily used time when people would come in during that 8:30 hour. But if you opened it back at 8:30 and we still wanted to do the training stuff, then you've got to stop and go back and then obviously wait on the customer. So I think for a variety of reasons, I'd like to ask that you make those hours permanent.
Could I just ask one question, and maybe I guess it's just a suggestion? So your memo, you outlined that that 8:30 to 9 o'clock time slot wasn't one that was heavily utilized by the public anyway to come in and conduct business. I'm in support of the staff there having the capability, whether it's training or just getting things ready for the day during that time. But would it be possible to maintain that time for like an appointment only, if just in case there was someone that could not, because of employment reasons or something like that, able
We
to
always
come?
have that flexibility, Matt, anyway.
Okay, I mean, I just want to make sure that option would be available to someone if they had
No
to
one
come.
has requested in the 4 or 5 months. But yeah, if there was an emergency sort of thing, we can handle that. But I don't want to necessarily advertise that as being for appointments only, because I think pretty soon you're going to undo what the reason of it is, and there hasn't been a demand. I think, we've always been a very flexible group as far as doing things like that. But once you put that out there, then I think you're going to kind of destroy the integrity of it.
Okay.
I would recommend no. I would ask that you don't put that type of stipulation on it.
This is Wendy. I would support this. I think it's important to allow them the time they need for that half hour. And particularly if you've gone through this many months and there hasn't been any complaints or people fussing about it. So I would move that we change the open office hours permanently from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. with the 8:30 to 9 a.m. timeframe being for office time as needed.
Second.
Sure. Very good. Any further discussion? Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7, new business. A, requesting authorization for release and expenditure of $7,563 to MCM Electric from the Northeast Harbor CIP line account number 640-10100-24680 that has a balance of $126,401.65.
Martha moves approval.
Matt seconds that.
Good. Any further discussion? Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
And John McCauley votes aye.
Thank you.
Consideration of fire chief's request for authorization to solicit competitive bids in accordance with town purchasing policy for a new heating and hot water system at Mount Desert Fire Station number 2, Seal Harbor.
This is Wendy. I would
Go for it, Wendy.
move approval.
This is Matt. I will second that.
Okay, any further discussion? So just outdated, outmoded?
1989. So were they 30 years, 31 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually, the boilers, when the ambulance was living over there this summer, the boilers went down. And I'd have a service tech go over there and get them. And at that time, they told me that, well, they were supposed to tell me at that time, they didn't think they would make it another year or two. But they didn't tell me until I called this year for the annual cleaning. And that's when they alerted me that there was time to replace them. So I'm just asking to solicit bids.
So can I ask, just in general though, is it to replace the system with a similar system, or is there any, I mean, I guess, thinking again, long-term and trying to be mindful of energy use and carbon footprint, is there going to be looking at alternative to the existing type of system, and are we just looking to replace the boiler as it is? I mean, because I would be in favor of exploring heat pump ideas and other more energy efficient and less carbon producing, even if that meant less competitive slightly financially.
Yeah, I can. I did not plan on doing that because just trying to be as cost effective as I could. I just wanted to replace the 2 boilers. The only difference was this time around, our system over there right now, the boiler actually, one of the boilers have a coil in it to heat the domestic hot water.
Right.
And we found out by having that system over there that one of those boilers constantly runs. So we're elected to go with a smaller electric hot water heater, try to save some fuel costs over there. But that was the only difference. I can, if the board wants me to, I can try to seek out some alternatives, but I might have to get some engineering advice on that one because I'm not really up on the alternative fuel systems and stuff over there. They will be, just to alert you, they'll probably be more costly.
In the short term, possibly, but heat pumps seem to be the way to go.
No,
Tony, go ahead.
I've spoken with a couple of mechanical contracting companies and mechanical engineers about the heat pumps. For air conditioning, they're great. And for heat, they're best used as a supplement to something else.
Right. I'll just add, we replaced our boilers last year here at the neighborhood house, and we were in the same boat. It was like mid 80s they were installed and held together with like bubble gum and duct tape the last couple of years. And we explored propane, we explored heat pumps. They're not good for large open spaces like this. But the good news is, even if you're just upgrading from like to the current version of whatever you have from the mid 80s, it's still substantially more efficient, and the town should see some savings, which, you know, is a positive. I think looking into propane, you get into burying the big tanks and all that stuff, and it gets a little cumbersome.
Yeah, they burn more efficiently too.
Yeah.
Less emission.
Yeah, I guess that's what I would be worried about with heat pumps. I'm not sure if they could heat, that's a pretty big building over there. I'm not sure if they could, keep up with it or not.
Sorry, you got turnout gear, right?
Yeah, but the trucks freeze.
You have no heart.
Water in the trucks freeze.
All right. I like Jeff's idea. You want to have a look into that, Mike?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Get some different alternatives.
Thank you.
And Tony, you might want some help on that. Item C, consider granting a utility location permit to Meredith Randolph, agent for Sea-Watch LLC, Phoebe Whipple, for underground water and sewer installation associated with the home at 2 South Shore Road, located as shown on town tax maps as map 22 lot 003.
John, I don't think, did we vote on that
We did not.
last month? Sorry. We had a motion and a second to let Mike.
Yeah. So, okay, I thought we were going to have him go get some more information on other systems.
But he
Well,
can
no,
still,
he was just authorizing him to get bids.
Yeah, I think I need, according to the purchase policy, I think I need to get.
Oh, okay. All right. So I think that, Wendy, you were on your way to make a motion.
I made the motion to authorize Mike to solicit bids, and I would add to also look into alternative measures if that's feasible.
Okay, and who seconded that?
Martha
I
did.
seconded that.
Oh, sorry, Matt did.
Okay, great. Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
And I vote aye.
Thank you.
Okay, consider granting a utility location permit to Meredith Randolph, agent for Sea-Watch LLC, Phoebe Whipple, for underground water and sewer installation associated with the home at 2 South Shore Road, location as shown on town tax maps as map 22 lot 003.
John, I've worked with Meredith on this and I recommend approval.
I move approval.
This is
I'll
Wendy.
second that.
Okay, any more discussion? Oh, Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
And I vote aye. Great. Any other business?
John, my bait house request should have ended with contingent on approval of a planning board building permit. But I know that. I meant to have that in the memo. I go to the planning board the 28th.
Ed, could you make that a separate sentence? Never mind.
No, I got you. No, I got you.
All right. So I'm going to read the warrant. All right. Warrants. Warrants to be approved and signed. Town invoice AP 2121 in the amount of $5,228,141.93.
Move approval and signature.
Seconded.
Great. Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dedman votes aye.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
And I vote aye. Authorized warrants to be signed, town state fees and payroll benefits. AP 2119 in the amount of $2,589. AP 2120 in the amount of $3,027.50. Town payroll PR 2108 in the amount of $107,763.20. PR 2109 in the amount of, credit of $65.02.
Move
Okay.
signature.
Okay, go ahead.
Move signature.
Okay.
Seconded.
All right. Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dedman votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Wendy?
Wendy Littlefield abstains.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you. Warrants to be acknowledged. School invoice 04 in the amount of $364,614.89. And school payroll 08 in the amount of $88,629.65.
Jeff Wood moves acknowledgement of that amount.
Okay.
Matt Hart seconds that.
Okay. Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dedman votes aye.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield's going to abstain.
Okay, and I vote aye. John votes aye.
Move
Okay.
adjournment.
All right.
Thank you, Martha.
Tell us how you really feel.
Okay, Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dedman votes aye.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.